a very important passage about the moment when Oedipus finally dies. And it's a mysterious moment. We already saw in an earlier passage that only Theseus gets to witness the actual moment of death. But now, at least in an indirect way, we have a messenger's speech that gives us the context, if not the exact localization. And as a lead-in, Oedipus is already saying, do not consider it just a just thing to look upon those things or to hear things you must not hear. So here again you have the language of mystery. Mystery is something that you can visualize and verbalize only in special circumstances. Otherwise, you shut down. Okay. I didn't see it. I didn't say it. And when you are in the right context, however, you can say, I see in a special way and I say in a special way. And the word that captures it all is the verb Muein, which means to have the openings of my senses shut down, or to say in a special way and see in a special way.
In the right context.
In the right context. And then the derivative of Muein would be mysterion and all those other words that we borrow in the form of mystery and so on. Mystic. So anyway, Oedipus is sending away his children, the daughters, and the only person who can stay and witness and see and say in the right context, because he was there, is Theseus, by virtue of the fact that as king of Athens, he's also the high priest of Athens. And therefore, in the mentality of Athenian institutions in the late 5th century, the high priest of Athens in the present, in the late 5th century, is a direct continuator, a channeler of the proto-priest, who is the proto-king of Athens, who is Theseus. And Theseus's name, of course, means the founder, our founder. And Theseus is the one who's authorized. That's the way I translate it here. And he must be present and must learn the things that are being done. And the word to express things that are being done is dran, and that's the verb that gives the noun drama, which then we borrow as drama. So the way this all becomes drama in the sense of a sacred act of ritual is because it starts in the heroic age. That's how it's launched. Well, let's push ahead because I'm very interested in the moment where, according to the messenger, next thing you know, you can't see Oedipus anymore. And even Theseus, we do see him screening his eyes.
Right. That's so interesting.
He's doing that because it's as if there had been an appearance, an epiphany before him that is unbearable to look at, but he has to look at it anyway. Yeah. Squint, squint, squint. And then, isn't this wonderful, in 1653, then after a short time, we saw him adore the earth. You see that the earth, the Mother Earth, is the prime superhuman force in this holy grove.
And we're seeing him do it.
And we're seeing him do it. And yes, also he's worshiping Olympus and all the sky gods who dwell on this celestial mountain of Olympus. And then here it comes. A meditation on what kind of scenario there might have been for this mysterious death, which only Theseus is authorized to visualize and to verbalize. The wording says clearly in the messenger's speech that only Theseus can verify this, but we're still talking about it. So one scenario in 1658 is that a thunderbolt vaporized him. Well, no, that's not what happened. Of course, you say to yourself, okay, it didn't happen, but there's a lot of thundering and lightning at the moment of death. So that ingredient is still there in the story. It's that it's not a thunderbolt that vaporized him. He transformed from living to dead in some other way so that then he can transform to an immortalized cult hero. All right, so we've eliminated that scenario. And then,
But while calling it to mind.
but while calling it to mind. And then, no, it wasn't a gust of wind that spirits him away. I love to say in this context, spirits him away, because then I can use the word spirit in the sense of a breath as well as wind.
Okay.
So it wasn't that. It wasn't a gust of wind, but we keep it in mind anyway, which would come from the sea and which would presumably spirit off Oedipus to the farthest reaches of the universe and plunge him into the cosmic river. No, 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 it wasn't that. All right, so we eliminated that. It was either some escort sent by the gods, well, Hermes, Iris, and is this really the alternative? We're still talking about either or, so it turns out poetically this is still just a scenario. Anyway, so it was either, let's say, Hermes, or else it was that thing from the netherworld, that thing that has good intentions. Nous, and we're so familiar with that word, that gaping, unlit foundation of the earth. And actually, that's as close as you can come to what happened in the logic of this whole scene of death followed by immortalization as a cult hero, is that the Mother Earth herself lovingly opened up and enfolded, engulfed this hero to be.
So this passage is sort of laying out many different possibilities.
Yes.
This is a sort of guidebook to how to
Yes.
be immortalized, right?
Yes.
Lots of different
Yes.
possibilities here.
It is a guidebook. It is a guidebook, and there's speculation about which scenario is more likely or less likely, but come on, it's a mystery. And the sense of mystery is there. That's what matters.